All right, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. You are live and direct once again with your Akazaki Yahoo. All praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahuwah Bahashem, Yahushua HaMashiach, and to all 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. Shalom Wabarukim, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day that the Most High will eventually bring us back together, join us back together, and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High Power, under one covenant, back in our own land. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Joined this evening by my most esteemed Ak Kenanaya. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Aki.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom once again, Aki. Shabbaton Yasharal. Kwam Yasharala.
Hallelujah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Happy Sabbath, Israel. And rise, Israel. Hallelujah. We definitely need to rise. We're back again for another video review. Proven Arabs are most racist against so-called black people. Now, I say so-called black people because we know that black is not an identifying race or identifying of a people. Some people can be black based on their melanation and not necessarily because that's their identifier. Some people are black because they're, of certain descents, and other people are black because of their descendant from somebody else. We're black because we're descended from Israel. We're Israelites. And from Israel, I mean Yaakov. So we're sons of Jacob, sons of Yaakov, sons of Israel. That's why we're black. So let's get to the video and be edified by the great work that the brothers over at Black Journals are doing. Shout out to those brothers again for the great work that they do. And here we go.
This is really unacceptable.
What you see here is actually not near the entrenched racist behavior in the Arab world. The matter of the fact is that racism is, and always has been, deeply ingrained into Arab communities. The Arab slave trade is a fact of history, a sad fact. And anti-black racism is a fact of current reality, a sad reality. These are shameful affairs that must be confronted.
So, I've lived in Dubai for almost 8 years. I did my high school here, my national diploma, my bachelor's, my master's here in Dubai. I had my child here, everything. And every single time I've been disrespected in this country, it's been coming from the low-budgeted Arabs. By that, I mean it's coming from the Egyptians, the Lebanese people, the Iraqis, with Pakistani, Bangladesh, whatever, that community, those are the ones that discriminate black people in this country. Your people that discriminate black people and make Dubai look like it's racist, and they discriminate against black people, but it's coming from the low-budget Arabs and the Indians. Why are you so comfortable to do that?
The low-esteemed poor Arabs from Turkey, from Bangladesh, from Nepal, those people are the worst at treating black people like shit, and it needs to get into the light. We need to stop hiding. African people, stop hiding. This is something that is affecting us. The reason why we concentrate a lot on white racism, white people, white colonialist, white history is because of black Americans. They are living in a place where there is majority of white governance, white rules, white regulations, white people. So they are oppressed by white people, and they speak about white people. And we Africans, on the other hand, are oppressed by the Arabs, by the Asians, but we don't speak about it. And also, when you come out and speak about it, people want you to keep quiet.
I posted the other video about racism in the UAE, and I saw so many comments. I wish I could go through all of them. It's very sad that all of us are experiencing the same thing just because of our skin color.
the energy that we put on white people is the same energy we should be putting on these Arabs, these Asians that are treating us as shit.
But what triggered me to post that video was because I've been trying to secure an apartment here in Sharjah, but I've not been able to. Not because I could not afford it, but just because I'm black. Real estate agents in Sharjah will not give an apartment to a black family. Just because we're black, they will not give us a home. There's a new rule in Sharjah by the real estate company saying no Africans.
Humanity has truly never known the hatred, malice, and annihilation of greater magnitude, savagery, or longevity than that which has been perpetrated against the peoples of Africa. For instance, what can one make of UK Conservatives' top donor Frank Hester speaking of hating all black women in a public space? One never stops to wonder where such hate could find the pride of airing itself before the global hearing of all kinds of peoples and tongues. What is behind it? It is the hardest thing to come to grips with. This was just days ago, this month of March, when the Frank Hester affair was rekindled. The Guardian newspaper had quoted Frank Hester as referring to Diane Abbott, who became the first black woman to be elected to the Parliament of the United Kingdom when she won a seat in 1987. Frank Hester, it was said, had uttered the extremist statement a few years ago that looking at the country's longest-serving black lawmaker, Diane Abbott, made him want to hate all black women, and she should be shot.
Just like that.
Just like that?
The fact that there are black people out there who don't know that anti-blackness is global is ridiculous. Like, wake the hell up, ya.
Such an extremist statement of hate, coming from none other but one of UK Conservatives' top donors, about a fellow human being like himself who had obviously done nothing wrong.
This calls for very serious brooding concerning how we ought to regard and relate with one another as one humanity and as one race.
This calls for some very serious state of careful deliberation on what has to go on or what has to come to a permanent halt.
Abbott, the age of 70, had issued a statement in response saying that Hester's remarks were alarming for a public figure who is a visible presence in the community because she doesn't have a car and regularly walks or takes the bus. "It is frightening," Abbott said. "I am a single woman, and that makes me vulnerable anyway. But to hear someone talking like this is worrying." Other persons of high status had also expressed disapproval. The Minister for Women and Equalities, Kemi Badenoch, was one of those who had spoken up. Thus, she had tweeted in a post on X, Hester's 2019 comments, as reported, were racist. Abbott and I disagree on a lot, but the idea of linking criticism of her to being a black woman is appalling. Although Hester had said that he tried to apologize to Abbott and accepted that the statement he made concerning her person in that private meeting years ago was rude, but his criticism had nothing to do with either her gender or color of skin. It is impossible to really ascertain the truth of this assertion. However, that is just one instance amongst a dozen tons of other instances of hateful treatment being directed at black people on a daily basis all over the world. Which brings us to the basics of today's video, examining how Arabs are the most racist against blacks.
They come to our own hostel to disturb people who are praying. This is really unacceptable. This is...
We came to India here to study. Now we are being attacked just because this is time for Ramadan and Muslims who are praying, not even Christians. There have been existing Muslims here in India, but none of them talks about this. Why only the African students?
We will be exposing works, thought forms, lineage behavior of racist Arabians towards black people, and the acrimonious tendencies the black community amongst them are being beset with for as long as anyone can remember. Before we delve right into this proper, as always, don't you forget to encourage our works by simply hitting that like button in front of you, share with your friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative, and kindly subscribe to stay on with us for more, while you help as well in building the rising membership of this channel. We are delighted to have you with us. Still on the affairs of racism around the globe, more than a dozen men have recently attacked international students who were performing Ramadan prayers at their Gujarat University accommodation in India over 48 hours ago. G.S. Malik, the police commissioner of Ahmedabad City, told reporters that around 24 people entered the hostel on Saturday night and objected to the African students offering prayers, asking them to do so in a mosque.
Come to our own hostel to disturb people who are praying. This is really unacceptable. This is
We came to India here to study. Now we are being attacked just because this is time for Ramadan and Muslims who are praying, not even Christians.
So I think that we're that this is well beyond I think this is more of a modern situation as opposed to a people like an ancient situation. From antiquity, you know, I can understand the problem of them and you know that they would have with us. I'm gonna jump to a script here. This is the book of Bereshit, chapter. Well, before I jump here, let's go. Let me go back. It's chapter 16. Book of Bereshit, chapter 16, and verse. Let me see where I'm gonna start here. All right, verse. You know what? I'll just start with verse 1. It says, so this is the book of Bereshit, chapter 16, and verse 1. It says, now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, a Mizraite, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, behold, Yahuwah have restrained me from bearing. I pray you, go into my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened unto the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Mizraite, after Abram left, dwelled 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she, this she here is Hagar, saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. So now she like, I'm better than you because I can be giving this man children. You can't even do that. Verse 5. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon you. I have given my maid unto your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahuwah hath judged between me and you. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, your maid is in your hand. Do unto her as it please you. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. So that dealt hardly there, that doesn't mean that she cussed her or she fussed at her. She dealt physically with her. So she fled from her face. Verse 7. And the Malach of Yahuwah found her, is her again, is Hagar, by the fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, where cometh you? Where are you going? Where you at? Where you going? And she said, I fled from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the Malach of Yahuwah said unto her, return unto your mistress and submit yourself unto her hand. And the Malach of Yahuwah said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the Malach of Yahuwah said unto her, behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahuwah have heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man, and his hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all of his brethren. And she came, and she called on the name of Yahuwah that spoke unto her, you power seest me. For she said, I have I also here looked after him that seeth me. Therefore, the well was called Bir La Ara. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Abraham a son, and Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And this happened when he was 86 years old. So he was 86 when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abraham. So that's one instance of the historical portion there. Also, if we go to, we'll see, chapter 19 really doesn't cover us, but let's get to chapter 25. And we can understand here. There's the book of Bereshit, chapter 25 and verse 1. Then again, Abraham took a wife. Now, you notice his name is different here. So Sarai has passed away. Isaac is born, and Abraham takes a wife. And her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Median, Madine, Ishbak, and Shua. And Yakshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and the son of Dedan are Asherim and Led Usim and Lumim, and the sons of Medan, Ephra and Ephher and Hanak and Ad-Adah and El-Da'ah, if I said that right. And these were the sons of the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. Wait a minute. He just had all these sons and grandsons. But Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. Wait a minute. Now, if I had a bunch of children, why would I give all of I had unto this one? Hold on. Did I lose you? Oh, really? You're not on the you're not up here. I can't see. Have you? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, Khan, I got you. All right. So we lost our Kenaniah, but he's on his way back. We'll have him back here just shortly. But continuing here, Slakia for the interruption as we are going through here. And Abraham gave all he had unto Isaac. So even though he had all these children and grandchildren, he gave all of his substance to his son, Isaac. His most important son, Isaac. And that's what we deal with here. So ironically, I should have read at the place in what chapter was that where he took Isaac up to the mount to he was going to sacrifice him.
See, maybe Bereshit 16.
Okay, I'm thinking you're right, about 16. So I should have read from there. But what I wanted to show was this is where the contention really came into place, where he gave all he had unto Isaac, verse 6. But unto the sons of the concubine, which Abram had, and Slakia, I read it incorrect. Unto the sons of the concubines, that's plural in English, so multiple concubines, of course, now we can tell from this point, he had Hagar as his concubine, a woman. Be mindful now, a concubine is a woman of another nation that you make your wife. That's what a concubine is. So that concubine, and then he got Keturah. Keturah must have been a woman of another nation as well. So this is referring to them as concubines. Which
Man, I want to say that on Facebook, not too long ago, that subject came up, and the brother provided script where there was an Israelite concubine. It's in Chronicles. I forget exactly where it's at, but it appears that there was an Israelite concubine
to an Israelite.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, and you know what? Isaac being sacrificed or offering was Bereshit 22. Let me see if I can find. Man, it was a while back. It was like maybe probably about 4 months ago when this subject came out. Like I meant to tag you in it.
Huh. Okay. I have to see that. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that. So I was not aware that, as I understood. Well, let me see.
And what I'll do, I will. What chapter is that you're in right there?
This is 25.
25. Okay. So I'm gonna look up concubine.
Yeah, the children of Keturah is what we're going over here. I'm just showing the discrepancy or the problem between the Arabs and the Israelites in this particular instance. So, continuing here. So, as I mentioned, again, the concubines which Abram had, he gave gifts. So the children of his concubines, he gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac, his son, while he yet lived. So this is why Abraham yet lived. Where did he send them? Eastward. He sent them eastward unto the east country. So he sent them away from Isaac because Isaac was his son of importance. And so he sent them away from him and sent them eastward unto the east country. So just real quick, I'm going to jump over here to put in this word concubine of here. And according to Oxford Language Dictionary, this word concubine is a plural noun and historical, a polygamous society, a woman who lives with a man but has lower status than his wife or wives, a mistress. So she may be with this man, he may be dealing with her in this manner, but she is of a lower status than his wife or his wives. So in this instance that we read here, that we were reading in the text here, which does make sense, but I'll go back to Bereshit here. So in this instance where we were reading, this woman Keturah, even though Sarah has passed, I'm sure that he didn't put her up in the same manner that he put up his wife Sarai. Same thing with Hagar, the Mizrahite. He didn't put her in the same condition that he would have had Sarai, his wife. So this woman would have been in modern definition here, a woman of lower status. So they would have been of lower status than his wife Sarai would have been. So that makes sense that they would call him a concubine. And these women didn't come from where he came from. Sarai came from where he came from. She was with him at his father's house. So when the Most High told him to leave his father's house, she went with him. So this wasn't a woman that he met on the way to where he was going. She was already with him though, there. All right. So that's where a lot of the discrepancy between the children of Israel and the Arabs come from, because of the contention between Ishmael and his brothers. These would be the brothers of Ishmael in Bereshit 25. When we read in 16, where the Malak of the Most High told Hagar that he shall dwell in the presence of all of his brethren. Those were the brothers that he would dwell in the presence of. So let's continue, and let me know if you find that out.
Well, I'm looking at First Chronicles chapter 2.
Okay.
And it says here that it wasn't because I'm wondering if this Caleb that is talking about, if this Caleb is Caleb that we don't think was an Israelite, or if this is talking about now the sons of.
You said chapter 2?
Yeah, Khan. First Chronicles chapter 2, and so verse 48.
All right. First Chronicles chapter 2 and verse 48. Caleb's concubine bore Shabir, and Tahana. Okay, Khan. So this was thought to be Caleb's concubine. So
yeah, Khan. Now, what I'm trying to figure out if this is the same Caleb that was that came, and I don't think so. I don't think this is the same Caleb that came out of the wilderness.
Yeah, the spies.
Yeah, I don't think this is one. I don't think it's the spy. He and Joshua ben Nun. I think this is a different Caleb.
Okay, kind of. Let's see. Let's have a look. Chapter 2.
Yep.
All right, let's check it out. Let's see if we can figure this out. Here we go. First thing we want to try to figure out. What verse is that again?
It was 48.
48. Okay, kind. All right. First thing we want to figure out is,
and verse 46 as well. I think she appears to be appears to be an Israelite as well, right?
And Ephah, Caleb's concubine, bore Haran. We read that too. I don't know. We just went right over that, I guess. But let's check out these two women here. Let's check out who this woman is. Ephah. So her name in the Hebrew would be Afar.
Khan.
Okay, Khan. Her name means gloomy. But a son of Midian, or this one says a Judite, or a son of Yehuda.
And then C is the one that is referencing.
Okay, concubine of Caleb in the line of Yehuda. So this woman could have been. Let me see. This woman could have been a foreigner. Could have been. Name of a son of Midi, the region statement settled by him, also an Israelite of an Israelites, Ephad, of the people of Midian, compared masculine, concubine of Caleb, from the darkness, make it draw. Yeah. So ironically, sons of Midian, Ephah is Midian's son. And where it's listed here, Haran. So that's so Isaiah 60:6 says, the multitude of camel shall cover them, and, and dormitories of Midian and Ephah, all they from Sheba shall come. No, that's not what I was thinking it was. My bad. But yeah, it's unclear as to who this is here. This person by
And
name.
you know, I can't even begin to think of who it was that made the post. But you know, I do remember looking at it and you know, wondering about it, because you know, I was under the same, you know, each time we had talked about concubines, it was always, you know, a woman from another nation. But you know, this brother had broke it down, and you know, I'm not even sure if I've referenced the right verse.
Well,
But like I said, I want to say it was in Chronicles.
Yeah, we can search it by that word. But looking at that first woman's name, well, that first name meant gloomy. Now, this second one here, his wife, Ma'acha, means oppression.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, son of Nahor by concubine. Son of Nahor by concubine. Daughter of the king, wife, mother of Absalom, daughter of Absalom, wife of King Rehoboam of Yehuda, the mother of Caleb's concubine, son of Hezron, wife of Machir, tribe of Manasseh, wife of yeah, it's Syrian woman. Okay. It's really hard to determine based on this, because it doesn't say what her lineage is. But if we look at this word concubine here and see its use here, did the user show us a number of times? How you spelling? Yeah, 35 times. Concubine 1 time. So like 37 times was used total. So when we come down here, we see it in Bereshit 22 and 24. We see it 25 and 6, 35 and 22, 36 and 12, Judges 8 and 31, 19 and 1, 19 and 20, 19 and 24, so on and so forth. A couple of times in Chronicles, once in Kings, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles. We see it in Esther. We know what that one in Esther was about. Songs of Solomon is used in 6 and 8. I don't recall that. And then in Ezekiel, it's used in 23 and 20. So let me just jump down here. We're familiar with 22 and 24, and his concubine, whose name was Rehamah, bore him Tabah and Gaham, and so it's based on a concubine. So, I mean, it makes sense though when you read this modern definition. You know, a woman who lives with a man but has a lower status than his wife or wives. This is my wife. These are my concubines. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't imagine an Israelite brother giving you his daughter to wife, and you call her your concubine. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's lower than, oh yeah, she's from Simeon, so, you know, I'm from Yehuda, she's from Simeon, so, you know, she's my concubine. Take that man and take his daughter back and probably punch you in the mouth. I know I would. I would be pretty furious if you're gonna do my daughter like that. So, but yeah. Anyhow, but my point in this kind of got off a little bit, but my point in this was to show the problem between the Arabs and the children of Israel, and that was one of the major problems with the Arabs and the children of Israel. That's where you get this ancient hatred, which we covered in our when we were reading Genesis, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of those points here while we were looking at this video. But let's get back to it here. Here we go.
Have been existing Muslims here in India, but none of them talks about this. Why only the African students? Now they're breaking down the bicycles, the bikes, everything is being demolished down. Imagine bikes people costed for. These guys have been hiding the racism and all that. Today they have really shown their true color. There's no one, the police are not responding. Look, this is how they attack.
Navid Siddiq, a student from Afghanistan who was injured in the attack, told the Times of India newspaper that he and other students were offering Taraweeh, a special nightly prayer occurring during Ramadan, when 3 people entered the hostel and began questioning them. An argument ensued, and they had returned with a larger mob armed with stones, iron pipes, and attacked us. They went on a rampage in the hostel, assaulting students in their rooms and damaging property and vehicles, he told the newspaper. This is just another one of those events born of division and separatism that we still have not stopped seeing happen amongst us every once in a while. Only this time it is happening in India. But it is, and has always been, about that same mindset that all humanity would unanimously have to expunge from her midst for the words unity and oneness to be achieved. However, in the Arab world, worst case racism exists. People with dark skin are seriously discriminated against and often see their rights curtailed. Racism is a virus that has embedded itself into the heart and soul of Arab communities, thriving on ignorant perpetuation. Many Arabs don't feel compelled to question their bigotry because it has been so deeply ingrained into our cultural hegemony that it has become second nature, says the Arabian Janine al-Shalabi, a speaker and writer. Take a quick flick through some Arab TV channels. The only time you would see people with darker skin tones was when they were portrayed as servants or villains. Ideally, the actors had porcelain skin that glistened on screen, despite the fact that in the US alone, 20% of the Muslim population is black. TV constructed an unobtainable beauty standard for the Arab population, teaching them to equate dignity with Eurocentrism, and it doesn't stop there. Growing up, many Arab children would have been introduced to a desert called Ras Ilabed, which literally translates to the head of the slave. This dessert is composed of a marshmallow center dipped in chocolate, said to resemble the head of a slave due to its dark color. Thousands enjoyed this sweet without caring to confront its racist origins. The examples provided so far may seem like mere jokes or meager coincidences, but the actuality is, these insignificant occurrences are indicators of larger webs of underlying prejudice that can easily spawn into something much bigger and much more horrifying. Let's hear what a Namibian who works in Turkey has to say about this. I am a Namibian living and working in Turkey. Being the only Black and African person here who's ever worked here, the pressure is so much. You need to have a thick skin to remain in a similar setting. The jokes they make, the kind of questions they ask, the privileges given to the Turks, the looks you get from colleagues and outside people when you go to the shops to buy something, the trips you take on public transportations, and how everyone looks at you with disgusted faces, how no one wants to sit or stand close to you. To anyone going through this, be strong and be financially responsible. and go back home and invest your money back home where you won't ever feel like you are useless or unimportant. While that was a very touching experience from our Namibian brother, this racist attitude has become even more prevalent in Arab countries for the most reason that Arab governments, particularly those that import foreign labor from Africa and Southeast Asia, have failed to implement or enforce anti-discrimination and anti-exploitation laws. North Africa's whites came to look upon blacks as an abject race of slaves and treated them accordingly. Tuaregs utilized superior arms, transport, fear, intimidation, and their knowledge of the vast Sahara and control of Saharan resources to rule and exploit enslaved blacks, known as Ikalan. Under rising nomadic power, both Arabic-speaking and Berber-speaking pastoralists began to use racial identity as a more explicitly ideological justification of their position of domination over sedentary communities. The common feature in the emerging color-coded schemes of social status and identity in the Sahara was the negative and servile connotation of blackness. Thus, in the period just prior to European colonization, race functioned primarily as a legitimization of domination and enslavement of people defined as black. Along these lines, local Arabo-Berber intellectuals in the Sahara rewrote the history of relations between their ancestors and black Africans in a way that made them, in addition to rightful slave masters of blacks, the bearers of Islamic orthodoxy and holders of religious authority. In the northern zone, enslaved blacks were exploited as domestic servants, concubines, and porters, and even as elite Praetorian guards under Morocco's Moulay Ismail, 1672 to 1727. Across northern Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, domestic household slavery predominated. Master-slave relations tended to be face-to-face and relatively more humane than the hereditary chattel slavery found in the vast Sahara. Slavery and anti-black racism has been and continues to be harsher in Saharan zones. A slave mode of economic production emerged on the backs of enslaved blacks. When slavery dominates economic production, it takes a crueler form. In the Sahara, brutally enforced, racialized, hereditary chattel slavery emerged. In contrast, in northern zones of the Maghreb, enslaved blacks were mainly exploited as domestic servants and concubines in warmer, face-to-face interactions. The labor of enslaved black Africans made the Sahara habitable. The initial wells and irrigation in the Sahara were dug and operated by slave labor. Enslaved blacks dug and tended wells, excavated and maintained the underground channels of Foggara, irrigated gardens, cultivated dates, and tended flocks. The arduous and relentless work to irrigate in a desert included digging channels tens of feet into the sand, with the risk of being drowned under it. The oases across the Saharan zones of North African countries still reveal remnants of a racialized slave mode of production. The same is true for parts of the Sahara, loosely controlled by states. When it comes to the examples of anti-blackness in the Arab world, it really doesn't take much searching to see it. Mahfouz al-Suwaidan, a PhD student in Harvard's Committee on the Study of Religion program, said in a meeting. She mentioned that racism is embedded in certain words in the language, the interactions with a predominantly migrant class, whether that be non-Khaliji Arabs or non-Arabs, and the way people treat their domestic workers. She referred to the kafala system that limits workers' freedom, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation and violation of their rights. In many Arab nations, black workers are lured into menial jobs where their passports are confiscated upon arrival, and they are forced into humiliating and often inhuman working conditions. They have little to no protection under the law and are particularly vulnerable to exploitation, including extraordinarily long working hours, withholding of salaries, sexual, mental, and physical abuse, and denial of travel. The recent case of Alem Dechesa brought to light the horrors faced by migrant workers in Lebanon. Dechesa, a domestic worker from Ethiopia, had committed suicide after suffering terrible mental and physical abuse at the hands of her Lebanese employers, whose savage beating of her in front of the Ethiopian consulate in a video had gone viral years ago. A few activists in some of these places have had enough of such treatments and are starting to rise up. The greatest progress so far has been made in Tunisia. Tunisia is the first Arab country to have passed an anti-racism law. An intense discussion about racism emerged there after the 2011 revolution. It resulted from a vibrant civil society making use of the freedom of expression. In October 2018, the Tunisian parliament.
Didn't they cover a lot of this in that other video that we watched? It seems like this is the same video.
It does sound familiar, and yeah, it does sound familiar.
Yeah, because we did a video on them about I want to say a month ago, and it was,
yeah, a while back.
Yeah, it was seemed like about the same content. I thought it would maybe have some update, but a lot of the same information is here. So maybe they feel like that wouldn't get enough traction, so they re-released it under a different idea. But yeah, this is some of the same information. I remember a lot of this, recalling a lot of this as we're going through it. So, well, let's continue. It's still interesting. So.
Parliament passed a law that defined racism and made racist statements and deeds punishable by law. Yet, even in Tunisia, many rights activists say there has been little progress in turning legislation into reality. To me, there's no change, says Kenza Benazouz, who researches discrimination in Tunisia. We don't talk about race. We don't have data based on race. We don't want to acknowledge it. Passing a law is not enough. Kaula Ksiksi, the co-founder of the Voices of Tunisian Black Women, says the law only exists on paper, since victims of discrimination and racist attacks don't have the means to take lengthy and costly legal action against perpetrators. According to her, there is still not enough political will to implement the national strategy that the law envisions. Ksiksi is a lawyer and says she dreams of seeing pictures of Black children in textbooks and Black Tunisians assume top posts in the government and the courts. Roughly 10% to 15% of Tunisians are Black, many of them descended from slaves, analysts say. While Tunisia became the first Arab country to ban slavery in the 19th century, its legacy remains tangled in Arabic slurs that refer to Black people as slaves and in complicated community relationships, especially in the South. Reem Garfi's maternal relatives came from Sudan, although it is unclear how and when they arrived in Tunisia, she says. Her father's fair-skinned family wanted nothing to do with her parents' marriage. When her mother got pregnant, things only got worse. My paternal grandmother used the N-word in Tunisian Arabic, says Garfi, now 25 and a freelance translator. She said she couldn't believe my mother would give birth to a monkey. In the language of the Arabians, which happens to mirror some form of daily life, like it is with the verbal background of every human, the deep-seated racism is revealing. There are a number of racist expressions used on people with dark skin. They are degrading and dehumanizing because they emphasize the superiority of people with white skin.
I find it ironic that anybody would call Black people monkeys when you deal with a monkey. Monkeys are not dark complected. I mean, their hair is dark complected often times, but when you get to their skin, it's not dark complected. They're very white in complexion. So it's very ironic that they would call Black people monkeys when monkeys are more similar in composition to Caucasians. I mean, granted, again, the hair of the monkey is normally dark. Whether you're talking about a monkey, an ape, a chimpanzee, most of the time those are dark complected, not dark complected, very fair skin complected, which is why they're covered with that dark hair to keep them in those tropical environments. But that's ironic. So I even had a meme before of a and let me prove that because I don't want just people to be like, he just said that. Okay. So let's take a look at a monkey without hair. That joker ripped, though, I'll tell you that.
Right, God. They want the things to rip your arms off, man. And some people have been unfortunate enough to find out the hard way.
Hard way, for real. Yeah. But yeah, so well, I mean, that would do look rather tan. I mean, it don't look dark black, but it looks tan. I mean, in comparison, I think this is a good comparison video or picture. You see him how he with the hair. His hair is all dark, but him without the hair, in comparison, I mean, that don't look like you wouldn't say, oh, that's a black person. That don't look like a black person. That look like look like a monkey, honestly. Here's another example. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how they would say monkeys, when monkeys truly look more Caucasian than they don't look black at all. Now this one look, that one look, wow, that's crazy. That almost remind me of, I'm not gonna say it. But anyway, orangutans are different because they have a different look to them. Because of their skin is different as well. This particular type of monkey here, I don't see these kinds. I've seen them before. I've seen this type before, but I don't know what kind of monkey this is because, black skin monkey. I don't think that's normal though. I think that's something else. I wonder if they make these. Like if this is like a doll, like not even something real. But anyway, all right, let's get back to the video. This has made me wonder about that. So
can be traced back to when the Islamic and Arab worlds still practiced slavery and were involved in the slave trade. These expressions have outlasted slavery and even become set phrases and figures of speech that are used daily. Black is often synonymous with a bad omen in these sayings. The colors black and white are also used as opposites to stand for good or evil, with reference to the selection of a life partner, for example, or descriptions of feelings or experiences. As in other Arab countries, few black Tunisians hold top jobs in the media, government, or the private sector. When a black journalist was tapped as a weather reporter on state TV a few years ago, he told local media he felt a responsibility to stand up also against racism. Tunisia's Law 50 aimed to do just that. Passed after years of campaigning, the 2018 legislation sets prison sentences of up to 3 years and maximum fines of nearly $1,000 for those found guilty of racial discrimination. The law also reflects changing mindsets. Today, more than 6 in 10 Tunisians agree that racism is a problem, according to the Arab Barometer survey, compared to just 6% of Egyptians, for example. But few racial discrimination cases have been filed, nor has Tunisia developed a national strategy or action plan to fight racism, rights experts say. Sometime last year, President Kais Saied's racist and xenophobic speech had incited a wave of violence against Black Africans. During a National Security Council meeting on the 21st of February, 2023, the Tunisian president, Saied, had said that hordes of irregular migrants from sub-Saharan Africa had come to Tunisia, with all the violence, crime, and unacceptable practices that entails. He said this was an unnatural situation and part of a criminal plan designed to change the demographic makeup and turn Tunisia into just another African country that doesn't belong to the Arab and Islamic nations anymore. Shortly after the Tunisian president made this statement, hell and fury were unleashed on all the blacks living in Tunisia. President Saied must retract his comments and order investigations to clearly signal that anti-black racist violence will not be tolerated. The president must stop finding scapegoats for Tunisia's economic and political woes. The community of Black African migrants in Tunisia is now gripped by fear of assault or being arbitrarily arrested and summarily deported, said Heba Morayeff, Amnesty International's director for the Middle East and North Africa. So far, the Tunisian authorities have sought to downplay these violent attacks and even deny them altogether. Authorities should prioritize the investigation of incidents of police violence against Black migrants, put an immediate end to forcible returns currently underway, and prevent any further racially motivated attacks by gangs or state agents. For 2 weeks, the authorities denied racist violence against Black Africans had occurred. After the international outcry provoked by the president's comments, the authorities announced new measures on 5th of March to facilitate the legal residency of migrants, as well as a process of repatriation for those wishing to voluntarily leave the country. But the attacks and violence have continued. Amnesty International interviewed 20 people in Tunis, among them 5 asylum seekers and 15 undocumented migrants from Cameroon, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, Guinea, and Ivory Coast. They were all attacked by mobs, and in at least 3 cases, the police were present but failed to intervene to stop the attacks or arrest the perpetrators. Since the beginning of February, Avocats Sans Frontières, ASF, an organization providing legal aid to asylum seekers and migrants, has confirmed at least 840 Black African migrants, students, and asylum seekers rounded up in several cities in Tunisia. Many of those interviewed said that violence and hostility against Black people were a regular feature of their life in Tunisia. However, 20 witnesses said the attacks escalated after the president's speech. Witnesses described to Amnesty International how, after the president's speech, Tunisian men, sometimes armed with batons and knives, had taken to the streets of the capital and attacked them or raided their houses. On the 24th February, Manuela D., 22, a Cameroonian asylum seeker, was stabbed in the chest, causing horrific injuries. She was attacked by a group of 6 men who shouted racist insults at her. She told Amnesty International that she was in Ariana neighborhood in Tunis, outside a cafe, when she felt a violent blow on the neck. She fell on the ground and heard voices shouting, in French, "Go back home, you gang of Blacks, we don't want you here." When she woke up, she was in the hospital, covered in blood, her clothes torn. She had a long, open wound on her right breast and other injuries to her abdomen and her lips. She shared with Amnesty International a photo taken that night, showing the injury sustained to her breast. Aziz, 21, from Sierra Leone, told Amnesty International that he came to Tunisia in June 2021 to work as a construction worker. He said that a few days after the president's speech, 10 Tunisians came to his house in Ariana, broke the door, stole his things, and forced him and his family out. He said the people who attacked and shoved him and his wife said, "All Black people must leave. They don't want to see us. They don't want us here. They took our money, even our food. They said, we don't want any Black people. Go back to Africa." In 8 cases, migrant workers and asylum seekers said that they had been forced out of their homes by mobs and that their belongings had been either stolen or destroyed. 10 told Amnesty International that they had been expelled by their landlords after authorities threatened to punish anyone hosting or employing illegal migrants. Some of those interviewed were staying in unhygienic conditions in a makeshift camp in front of the International Organization for Migration in Tunis, with no access to food except some distributed by volunteer citizens groups, or a toilet or warm clothes, having lost all their belongings. Several witnesses had said they were assaulted and arrested by the police. Milena, a student from Burkina Faso, reported that she was subjected to physical and verbal attacks by the police. She told Amnesty International that she was coming out of the supermarket on the morning of 3rd of March, when 3 Tunisian men standing nearby began to insult her, telling her to leave the country. A passing police car then stopped, but instead of addressing the men, asked her to produce her residency permit. She replied that she was a student and produced her school documents. However, she was immediately handcuffed, forced into the police car, and taken to Ariana police station. She said, "When I got to the police station, one policeman shouted at me saying, 'You Blacks create problems,' and another one kneed me in the stomach." 4 hours of detention had passed before Milena was finally released after a Tunisian woman whom she knew came to vouch for her. Jomo, 30, a construction worker from Côte d'Ivoire, told Amnesty International that on 5th of March at about 8 p.m., he was sleeping in a house in Sfax that he shares with 5 others when he heard a loud bang on the door and a group of around 10 men broke in. They were armed with batons. Some forced 2 of my flatmates out and beat them until they fell on the floor. Others started destroying everything in the house. They took the money and phones of some of us. The National Guard came 30 minutes later. They didn't arrest the assailants, but instead handcuffed us and took us to their headquarters. He said that he had been arrested along with 25 others that night, including an 8 months pregnant woman. The following day, all 25 were taken to court, but they were freed in the afternoon without trial. Jomo said that the landlord told them they cannot come back to the house. At the time of the interview, he was living rough on the street. Amnesty International reviewed recent videos and photos taken from inside Awardia, a detention center in Tunis, showing security agents beating migrants. In one video, officers forcefully dragged a black man down a flight of stairs. In fact, hundreds of black Africans were intimidated into returning to their own countries. At least 300 Malians and Ivorians were returned to their countries as part of what was described as a voluntary evacuation. There is a geographic dimension to slavery and anti-black racism in the Arab world. Black-white relationships differ in Saharan zones versus northern non-desert zones of Maghrebi countries, largely based on the historical roles in economy and society that enslaved black Africans and their descendants have played in the two zones. Slavery was crueler and more brutalizing, and contemporary anti-black racism has been harsher in the southern Saharan zone than along the Mediterranean. Slavery has also lingered in the Saharan zone until the present day. Demographically, blacks in the Maghreb are concentrated in southern desert regions. In the southern zone, such as the oases of southern Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, we find black populations that reach as high as 75% of the population. That number is probably higher in Mauritania and among the nomadic Amazigh or Berber, Tuareg, who roam the Sahara across state boundaries. Unlike in northern areas of North Africa, where enslaved blacks were largely exploited as household servants and concubines in the Saharan zones, they were central to the economy. Indeed, a black slave mode of production emerged in the Sahara, and the slavery in the area, which has not yet completely ended, is brutal, hereditary, chattel slavery in which black people are treated as property. In the Saharan zones of North African countries, slave labor, not wage labor, dominated, and as Mosley Finley has noted, slavery is transformed into a more exploitative and brutal version when slaves play an essential role in the economy. In closing, let's break free from the illusion of separation. Our differences, cultural tapestries woven from 1,000 threads, are what make humanity a masterpiece. Racism is a stain, a tear in this beautiful fabric. Let's mend it together, thread by thread, with understanding, empathy, and the knowledge that beneath the surface, we are all connected. We are all threads in the same magnificent story, a story waiting to be written in the language of unity and love. That brings us now to the end of yet another interesting video segment.
All right, so another video concluded. Another bunch of viewers hopefully edified. Not having a lot of experience with Muslims or with Arabs, I should say. You got to take these people at their word if this is what they're dealing with. And I just imagine, it sounds like some of our old time situations. Malcolm X was at his house, and the Ku Klux Klan came to his house where he was Malcolm X when he was a child. The Ku Klux Klan came to his house and took his father, and his father was dead after that. That wasn't the first time they came to their house. Those type of situations happen here in this country. But I think I was talking to earlier, I think that the people here in this society look back on that and go, man, we're going to have to pay for that. These people are going to kill us for that. And so we don't deal with a lot of that today. I have yet to see, don't get me wrong. Now, there's brutality, there's police brutality especially, and they get away with it. But I think that on the other hand, like there was a case a few years ago in Detroit, not in Detroit, but in Michigan, where a woman crashed her car and she went and knocked on this man's door. And she knocked on the front of his door and she went around to his carport and knocked on the door, and she was trying to get help, pretty hysterical. She had crashed her car. Happened to be a black woman. The man in the house who she was knocking on the house door was a white man. And it was late at night, and so rather than he tried to play like he felt like his house was surrounded and that he was in danger for his life. Well, I think the difference there was that he opened the door and had a shotgun and shot her with his shotgun. And they tried to say, oh, he had the right to protect his house, his castle doctrine. But
I remember that.
Remember that one? Yeah. His house was protected because the door was shut. Never did the door break. Never was there danger of anybody coming in. The fact that he opened the door to the outside and shot was the tell all as to what, he was not in danger. In fact, he was the danger because this person was seeking refuge or seeking help at his residence. Instead of them getting help, they got murdered, in cold blood because of that the situation. If he felt endangered, he could have just, sad to say, he could have called the police and they would have probably got away with it. They'd have showed up and murdered the young woman, and they would have probably gotten away with it. But the fact that he opened the door with a shotgun and shot her through the screen door, matter of fact, if I remember correctly, he ended up in prison, and I think he's still there now. So, but there's been various situations where these things happen, but a lot of those situations end with that person in prison. The exception I think would be that George Zimmerman situation. He didn't go to prison, even though he killed that young man, that young unarmed man, and horrible, sad situation. But my point of the matter is that we get our share of these experiences here. It's not been as much recently. I mean, those cases are fewer. The biggest nemesis we deal with is the police. The police kill our people and get away with it. Not only do they get away with it, but it's never even thought of or ruled as a crime. And they call it no true bill, as if there was nothing wrong. It's like I compare it to, you watching football and the referee throws a flag and the referees come together and talk about it. And then they come out and the referee will say, there's no flag on the play. And they just pick up the flag like, oops, that was a mistake.
Right.
Like that's literally what they do in those situations here. So I just imagine, over there, taking it back to the 40s and the 30s, where they were, acting horrible in those situations, and even some other times where they acted terrible, but at least they got arrested, and that's not enough, honestly, to just arrest somebody and put them in jail for murder. I mean, think about that same case in Michigan. That man shot that young woman through the door. He opened the main door and shot her through the screen door. That lady had, that was a suffering death for her. That was not a quick and over with death. Like, she got hit with a 12-gauge shotgun in her torso and she bled out. Like, that's a suffering death. That's not a easy death to deal with. That's not that's a lot of suffering in that. Her skin was pierced with a shotgun bullet, and to the point where, from her injuries, she died on his lawn. She died. So, that's not equivalent to compare. So, anyhow, but yeah, these things still go on in America and in these other places. I think we have fewer of it here because over there, I don't think that they get near the judgment that not the judgment. I don't think they get near the accountability that happens here. You know, this place is under a bit more scrutiny. Now, when it comes to the police, they can get away with it. They get away with it. Say no foul, no harm, and they run out the courtroom happy. That case in was that Missouri where she shot that man? And he had his hands up, and she shot the brother. He had his hands up, and then she goes, "Shots fired," and they said, no foul. And her and her attorneys, they ran out the courtroom. Was like, you see them, they was running. I mean, literally running. Like, we better get out of here before they kill us. That's the sentiment. You remember that? You remember that?
Yeah, Con, and I'm not sure if it was Missouri or not, but her excuse was she thought she had grabbed her taser. Is that the case you're talking about? Where she thought she shot the brother, but she said that she told the judge and everybody, when she was being examined, that she thought it was her taser in her hand and not her gun.
Okay, that may have been the case. I'm trying to remember. Let me see. Black man. It was on the freeway. If I remember right. On freeway.
And it was within the last 3-4 years. Like it was after, I want to say it was after Breonna Taylor.
I think this was before.
Okay, maybe I got the wrong one then. That
Breonna Taylor happened. That seemed like that was pretty recently.
Yeah, that was actually 2020 when that happened.
Okay, yeah. So that was just about 4 years ago. I'm thinking that this is it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. No, I'm not. Let me share. Yeah. Okay, so it may have been Oklahoma. I said, what did I say?
Missouri, but close.
Yeah. I think this is it. I'm not sharing. My bad. Like I said, I'm thinking this is it. But I may be mistaken. Yeah, because I wanted to say it was a navigator, and he had his hands up. And I remember they was watching it live, and the dude was like, the dude they was watching, he was like, that's a bad dude right there. That's like a bad dude. Like a bad dude. He was just complying with the request of the officer. Get out of the car, put your hands up. He had his hands up, and let me see. I cannot remember his name. Black Lives Matter against police, helicopters. I'm just reading this real quick, trying to see if I can. Crutcher had his hands up and walked away from Shelby, who was following him. Their guns pointed to his back. She soon joined by 3 officers, according to the dashboard in the second squad car. Yeah, I think that was it. Crutcher was shot. I think he was some kind of a something in the church, I want to say, like a pastor or something. If I remember, I may be wrong. I may be wrong about that. Before he released the incident video recordings, the Chief Jordan announced that Crutcher had no weapons on him or his 4-wheel vehicle. So not only did he not have any weapons, but he didn't have nothing in the vehicle either. On the second patrol. Yeah, but that's the one I'm thinking of, Crutcher. Yeah, I'm thinking that was him. I'm pretty sure I remember this scene right here. And it was a navigator. And they asked him to get out, and he got out, and he was walking. It wasn't a freeway. It looked like this is like a country road. But this was in Oklahoma as opposed to Missouri. So, but the point of the matter is, these things have happened here recently. Lost our Kenanaya again, but these things have happened here recently, and it's hard to deal with those things. It's hard to live with, but they happen, unfortunately. And when those things do happen, You know, we have to deal with it. I think that the reason I say that, I think is because I think white people in this country don't want the wrath of black people on their behind. You know, I think they got us in a decent place. So I was saying that right here at this point, I think white people don't want the wrath of black people on their behind. And I think that they got us in a pretty decent place because we can, you know, a lot of our people are content. Well, you get to tear down the you know, what make these people content, and now you got a bunch of angry black people on your hands. So you're gonna take away their ability to earn a living, to have a residence, and you know, to do these things. You're gonna take that away from them. You're gonna get, you know, you're gonna have a lot of problems. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of issues on your hands. What they're doing over there is they're dealing with those people like at a level that, you know, black people. And I say black people because it's not necessarily our people. It's other black people that's over there. They people coming from everywhere. Some of the places that they highlighted were Ghana, Nigeria, and Ivory Coast. Some of these people, those are where our people are. A lot of our people are there. What was that place they mentioned that had 75%? Like, if you're 75% of the people,
you're the majority.
Yeah, you're being oppressed by 25%. Man, you better smoke these people.
Well,
I mean, that should not even happen. Like, how are you 75% and getting oppressed? Like, man up for real. Like, don't put your hands on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's simple. Like, that's not even. You don't even have. What's going to happen? What, they gonna come and get you? Oh,
right. No, not at all.
I mean, come on, let's be reasonable. I mean, that's unreasonable behavior. How in the world are you gonna let somebody who's 25% oppress 75%? Like, that's ridiculous. Truthfully. So anyhow, but that's really all I got. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay, Khan. With both of these videos that we brought out, covered today, I couldn't help but to think of Telahim, Psalm chapter 83. Let's see, beginning at verse 3. And it reads, "They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yasharal may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against you, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and Hagar Renez, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah." So, the scriptures are undefeated. We have mentioned before, our people in Ukraine, that we don't have any friends, for the most part, with these nations in bulk. These nations are confederate against us. Right. We've got to. I mean, it's no remembering it because we're constantly reminded of it. Like when we see it on the news, we see it. It's in our forefront quite often, and that won't change until our captivity is turned back.
Right. Exactly. 100%. And that's a reality to be mindful of and to think about. We got to get these things to the front of our minds always, and never forget. They love to say other people love that. We got a comment and says it's mind control. Yeah, absolutely right. It's absolutely mind control. So, you know, be mindful of that. But, you know, we can never keep these things at the front of our minds. You know, the scripture says, I believe it's Devarim chapter 12. It's like, I thought I was sharing in Psalms 83 when you was reading it. But let me go to that real quick. Here's Psalms 83 that we were just reading it there.
Mm-hmm.
But let me go real quick. Is it Devarim 12? Remember the days of old? Ask your 12 and 12 and take heed to yourself and suffer not. Remember what I'm talking about?
I mean, it sounds familiar. I'm not exactly sure. I'm looking at Devarim 12 now, and I don't see it in there.
Be off on the number. Remember the days of old. 32, my bad.
Okay.
20 verses off, 20 chapters off, 32. And 7.
Verse 7.
Yeah, God, that's it right here. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you. Your elders, and they shall tell you. And they will tell you. So, you know, it's important that we understand that those are historical points and not just take that as grain as nothing, as salt, something to remember from old times. Because those old times that our people lived back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, it's people on the other side of the earth living those right here today. And this is what they're having to deal with. So us forgetting, and not forgetting, but us not being mindful of what happened at those times makes it easy for them to have to deal with negative things at that time. So at this time. All right. So we're going to conclude there and go out with a little bit of a bang. Of course, we're going to remind you to keep the commandments. But before that, we're going to remind you to, not us, but we're going to remind us to kiss the boy.
You, when I'm sit. Where were you when I'm dream? So fast, Kichi. Hey boy. So fast, Kichi. Hey daddy. Kichi. Kichima. Kichima. Sibram Konto. Alive. Sibram Konto. Alive. Shoot to kill. Kill our. Shoot to kill. Yamansa. Kiss the poor. The farmer. Kiss the poor. The farmer. Brr, pa. Pa. Brr, pa. Pa.
Attention.
God.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I know that's dealing with the colonizers and people who have came and invaded. But, you know, that's got to deal with anybody who's dealing incorrectly with our people. So, you know, be mindful of all of those. We're going to go ahead and close it out here with the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter number 12 and verse number 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is so very important that we understand that in the conclusion of the whole matter, we are to fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, when it is all said and done, all the dust is settled and all the smoke is cleared, we will be judged, or rather, we feared the Most High and kept his commandments, because this is the whole duty of man. I am your Akazaki Yahoo, joined by my most esteemed Akinanaya, giving all praises, all honor, and all esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahuwah Bahashem, Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth, I say shalom wa baruki, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait till the day that the Most High brings us back together, and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant. Until that day, Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Picard.
All right, join us as we get into our last video when we continue the hijack series review. So good stuff thus far, and we're going into part three today. So join us for that.